Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, and today we'll be talking about epidemics that occurs every 100 years. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe and hit that bell notification so that whenever I come out with a new video, you will be the first one who will be getting the notification. And it's my honest plea, please subscribe and support me so that I can come out with new motivational videos like this without wasting much of the time. Let's get into it. This pandemic or epidemic is not a new thing. Every year or millennium, we are shocked by some mysterious mutant virus, and it creates a chaos in human history, making us to wonder if we are ever going to come out of this epidemic or pandemic. Let us first understand what is epidemic and what is pandemic. Epidemic means widespread, an occurrence of a disease, or we can call it a disorder in a population at a frequency higher than that expected in a given time period. And the meaning of pandemic is a contagion or a contamination epidemic over a wide geographical area and affecting large proportion of the population. So is it an accident or well-charted destiny? Every 100 years, the world is overcome by a sickness. A pandemic shocked the world every century, and perhaps coronavirus is being forced by intention in 2020 at this moment. Let us see the sequence of great pandemic in human history. The world was afflicted by the pandemic called plague in 1720. Then cholera shook the world in 1820. That was followed by Spanish flu in 1920. So this event patterned the dark years for the world and its inhabitants during those distressing times. Okay, so let's see what happened in 1720. 1720 plague, or we can call the Great Plague of Marseille. Plague or pestilence was disease that struck the world in 1720. Marseille in France was the first place where it was spotted when a mortal distemper seized the French port city of Marseille. The disease arrived on a merchant ship called the Grand Saint Anthony, which had picked up infected passengers during a journey to the Middle East. This deadly pandemic or 1720 bubonic plague started in Marseille and was later called the Great Plague of Marseille. And this disease shook the region for a year or so, killing approximately 1 to 1.5 lakh people. The tragedy was so great that land for burial got limited and the dead bodies were needed to be piled up for mass funeral. It is said that the Great Plague of Marseille was the last major outbreak of the bubonic plague in Western Europe, arriving in Marseille, France. So the Great Plague of Marseille 1720 till 1723 it lasted, and the plague spread quickly, and over the next 3 years as many of 1 lakh people approximately may have died in Marseille and surrounding areas. Okay, so after 1720, it was on 1820, after 100 years, again another pandemic that struck the world. So 1820 cholera, or acetic cholera we can call it. It began in Kolkata, West Bengal, India. It was the first place that this disease called cholera was first detected. While cholera was detected much before, the disease spread fast from Kolkata, Asia to Europe, leaving nearly half the population of the world in fear. Southeast Asia was the most affected place with a death ratio of almost 1 lakh people. While cholera had spread across India many times previously, this outbreak went further. It reached as far as China, Mediterranean Sea, Europe, and so on. So hundreds of thousands of people died as a result of this pandemic, including many British soldiers, which attracted European attention. This was the first and several cholera pandemic to sweep through Asia and Europe during the 19th and 20th century. This first pandemic spread over an unprecedented range of territory, affecting almost every country in Asia. So the disease had reached Kolkata on the Bay of Bengal and quickly spread to the rest of the. And in 1823, cholera reached Mauritius. So in 1824, transmission of the disease ended. Let's see its total deaths. Like, what was the death ratio of cholera? Well, the total death from the pandemic remains unknown till now. So as for India, the initial report mortality rate was estimated to be around 1.25 million per year, placing the death toll at around 8,75,000. The death toll in 1817 to 21 was undoubtedly great, but there is no evidence to suggest that it was as ununiformly high. If this figure was applied to the whole of India with a population of some 120 to 150 million, the total number of deaths would have been no more than 1 or 2 million. Flu, which is one of the most renowned, known, and dangerous. So 1920 Spanish flu, the very mention of this flu would send tremors down the spine in 1920 at that time. The Spanish flu had affected 27% of the world population. That's how deadly this flu was then. Approximately 10 crore people died due to Spanish flu. It spread across the world, and it is believed that this deadly flu had claimed the maximum number of lives till this day. The other thing, the Spanish flu, also known as 1918 flu pandemic, was an unusual deadly influenza pandemic caused by H1N1 influenza A virus, lasting about 15 months from spring 1918 Northern Hemisphere to early summer 1919. It affected 500 million people, about a third of the world population at the time. Well, the death toll is estimated to have been anywhere from 17 million to 50 million, and possibly as high as 100 million, making it one of the deadliest pandemics in human history. Most influenza outbreaks unreasonably kill the very young and very old, with a higher survival rate for those in between. But this Spanish flu pandemic resulted in a higher than expected mortality rate for young adults. Well, the medical journals from the period of pandemic of 1918 found that the viral infection was no more aggressive than previous influenza strain. Instead, this malnutrition, overcrowded medical camps and hospitals, poor hygiene, all intensified by this recent war that had taken place, promoted bacterial superinfection. This superinfection killed most of the victims, typically after somewhat prolonged death. Well, the 1918 Spanish flu was the first of two pandemics caused by H1N1 influenza A virus. And the Spanish flu infected around 500 million people, about one third of the world's population. Estimates as to how many infected people died vary greatly, but the flu is considered to be one of the deadliest pandemic in human history. 2020 COVID-19 pandemic, also known as the coronavirus pandemic, is an ongoing pandemic of coronavirus disease 2019 COVID-19 caused by severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2 SARS-CoV-2. The outbreak was first identified in Wuhan, China in December 2019. The World Health Organization declared the outbreak a public health emergency of international concerns on 30 January and a pandemic on the 11th March. As of 31st May 2020, more than 6.05 million cases of COVID-19 has been reported in more than 188 countries and territories, resulting in more than 368,000 deaths. More than 2.56 million people have recovered so far. The virus is primarily spread between people during close contact and most often via small droplets produced by coughing, sneezing, and talking. The droplets usually fall to the ground or onto surface face rather than traveling through air over long distances. Less people may become infected by touching a contaminated surface and then touching their face. It is most contagious during the first 3 days after the onset of symptoms. Although spread is possible before symptoms appear and from people who do not show symptoms. Common symptoms include fever, cough, fatigue, shortness of breathness, and loss of sense of smell, touch, pneumonia, and acute respiratory distress syndrome. The time for exposure to onset of symptoms is typically around 5 days but may range from 2 to 14 days. Well, there is no known vaccine or specific antiviral treatment. Primary treatment is symptomatic and supportive treatment. Preventive measures include hand washing, covering one's mouth with coughing, maintaining distance from other people, wearing a face mask in public settings, and monitoring and self-isolation for people who suspect they are infected. Authorities worldwide have responded by implementing travel restriction, lockdowns, workplace hazard controls, and facility closures. Many places have also worked to increase testing capacity and trace contact of infected persons. According to the latest news of WHO, they say that the asymptomatic patients cannot transmit the disease to another patient. Well, my greatest concern right now is this. Due to this coronavirus, the virus may not be so much effective as the anxiety of the virus that is crippling the mind of every individual. The fear that is engulfing the people. People are locked down, they cannot go out, they cannot work, they cannot earn the livelihood, and people are in stress, they are in anxiety, they are in fear, they are in depression. So my friends, my biggest concern at this moment of 2020 coronavirus pandemic is this, that though the virus is still there out there to infect people, to take as many lives as it can, but the only thing what we can do is that we can socialize ourselves staying at home, getting more knowledge about the virus or other knowledge relating to it, and not only that but relating to some other people also, so that we can educate those people. Indeed, the education will bring about of change that we needed right at this moment to control this outspread of virus. This pandemic will complete its course, but during the course that it has taken and during the course it will be going on, we are the people who will be sustaining the effect and the onset effect of this virus. So we are the people who will be telling our children like this was the cause and this was the virus that we had faced and this was the pandemic that we went through, but this is how we control it, this is how we overcame. So the greatest thing that we need at this moment is the mental health. So my friends, as you can see, a lot of news around the world, a lot of people, due to this pandemic that is going on, people are in anxiety, depression, and fear. They don't know what to do because there is no vaccination, no accurate medicine that can cure this virus. All we need is that we need to stay strong, we need to educate people, we need to educate ourselves, and please maintain whatever the social distancing and the other things relating to the control and the precautionary methods that has been given to us, and together we can overcome this. Thank you so much for watching my video, and please stay tuned that for my next video, which I'll be coming out with jobs in Europe